The new culture war raging across America is over books.
Books.
Books from books.
Books here.
Books.
Books. Around the country, efforts to ban specific books or even whole categories of books are on the rise.
I will say I've been a librarian in a school for the last 15 years, and I've never seen people trying to ban books like I've seen right now. Book banning in schools is not something new. I can give you a Supreme Court case from back in 1982. It's the Island Tree School District in Long Island versus Pico, where the Supreme Court stated that to remove books from a school library is unconstitutional, right? Because the library is not a classroom. It is where students come for independent discourse, independent research. So they should be allowed to have access to whatever is in that library, right? I believe he was one of the congresspeople in Texas, comprised a book list of over 850 books that he believed should be pulled from school shelves. But the majority of the books that are on the list are books about LGBTQ people, their rights, their stories, as well as books on race, racism, and people of color's lived experiences. So it's like we want to erase them from our libraries, which is utterly ridiculous.
Do you think the adults that banned these books have read these books?
Absolutely not.
No, definitely not. Absolutely not.
Because I don't think a moral compass could let you ban books that say equality and loving each other.
How do you normally go about your day as a librarian, and how has this book ban affected the library in general? Have you made any changes?
On a personal level, at Townsend Harris High School, my day's really busy, right? I do a whole bunch of different things throughout the day, usually ordering materials, researching stuff for students, for their classes, putting together resources for students. But when it comes down to, have I really done anything different? No. I feel like as a school librarian, I am ethical. I have the students' best interests at heart, that I believe that our students deserve to have the most current updated information that they can possibly have. I believe every student in our school deserves to read stories about themselves, as well as their friends, as well as other people's lived experiences. I don't go willy-nilly to buy books. There's a very deliberate way that I choose books, right? I don't choose books just because. You know, I talk to students, I talk to teachers, I talk to other librarians, I read reviews, looked at reviews for every single book. One of the most important things that people need to understand about a library, you don't have to read the book if you borrowed it. If you brought it home and you looked at it and you started reading it and you said, oh, I don't want to read this, for whatever reason, you don't like it, close it, bring it back, we'll find something different. It's not a sign. I'm not in your house saying, you better read that book.
So the top 5 books that people were asking to be banned were either children or young adult books, and they all included content with LGBT characters.
How do you handle situations in which students are interested in books about these topics, like LGBTQ and things like that, but might feel hesitant because of aspects like their family or things like that?
That's a good question. There is a poster in the library for nonfiction topics, right? Nonfiction tough topics, things like birth control, sexually transmitted diseases, things that they might not want to come over to me and say, hey, Miss Laverde, I need a book about birth control. That they don't even have to ask me. They see it, they go, they take it, and they borrow it. You come over to me to borrow a book, or Miss Cooper Smith or one of the student monitors, we're not supposed to ask you about your choices, except for maybe, did you find what you needed, right? We have an online catalog. We also, the books have genre labels on them. The ones with the LGBTQ stickers on them are usually the books that being a queer character is essential to the story, right? It's usually a coming out story. So if coming out is not part of the story, then I'm just going to put it in the section where it belongs. And not every LGBTQ book has a sticker. Basically because you have kids questioning their sexuality, and they don't want to discuss it with anybody, and they don't want somebody to go over to them and you're reading a gay book, right? It's like, no, I want people to feel comfortable with their reading choices. We also have for that ebooks, books on Sora, where kids can find books about topics just like in that catalog as well. And no one knows what you're reading because it's on your device. It's like, it's a little bit different when you're carrying the book, or as when I'm reading the book on my phone or my iPad or listening to it. No one sees what I'm reading. No one should shame anyone for reading anything.
During a raucous meeting, parents brought signs and openly cheered, as well as booed those defending and those adamantly opposed to adult-themed books available to Keller ISD students.
So I know they did like a lot of great things in this library, but I was just wondering if you think that these books would quote unquote be in danger in like New York City if these laws would ever be present, and if so, like how soon?
I don't want to live with my head in the sand. For the most part, the students and the faculty here are very accepting, very open-minded. But that kind of attitude is a little bit dangerous because it just takes one person to come in to rock the boat. One of the things that bothers me the most about all of the challenges that are going on throughout the country is that no one has, at least to my knowledge, no one has stopped and taken a minute and spoken to the librarian to find out why this particular book is in that particular library. We're not trying to indoctrinate anybody. We're trying to give kids the tools that they need to go through their daily life. Do I think book challenges in New York City can happen? Absolutely. So one of the things I will tell you is that in New York City school systems, we've tightened up our collection development policy. We have talked about the steps that need to be taken if a parent or a teacher or a community member comes into a school and says, we don't want this book in our libraries, and the procedures that need to take place, because there is a whole bunch of guidelines for that. It's like, you just can't come in and demand something be removed. I mean, you could, but it doesn't work that way.
Librarians are starting to fight back in a very librarian way.
This week, we're sharing books that were gifts in people's lives.
In your opinion, how important is the access to these books and resources to the students?
Oh, books save lives. They legitimately save lives. I think for the most part, a lot of adults forget what it's like to be a kid. Students having access to stories about their lived experiences, reading about characters and how they've overcome things, helps them process their own issues, helps them realize they're not alone, gives them the language that they need to talk about things, lets them realize that there's a way out, and that, books save lives. They really do.